So we will discuss a little bit of that. The second one is on how the industry is changing in terms of dynamics. There's a lot of happening in the pharmaceutical industry within itself, and that is the second topic that I would like to discuss. The third is how the go-to-market models are changing. There is so much of happening in terms of the supply chain, a lot of e-pharmacies coming in, telemedicine thanks to COVID, a lot of changing dynamics in terms of how companies market products into the market. And the fourth, which is again a very large topic, but we'll try to touch on it, is digital disruption. There is so much of happening in digital, and some of you talked about artificial intelligence and how that is impacting the pharmaceutical industry. So let's start with the first one. That is the changing government and regulatory landscape. So as was mentioned earlier also, the healthcare is becoming more and more important for the government of India. As many of you must be knowing, recently the government came up with a new revised Schedule M, which makes it mandatory for companies, large companies within 6 months and smaller companies within 12 months to be able to comply fully with Schedule M, the new Schedule M. So there's a lot of emphasis on compliance, on quality. So with greater vigilance happening from the government, and there's so much tightening of policy in terms of quality of medicines. My question is, how do the panel members view that the industry will have to evolve to have, at the same time, ensure quality medicines with complying with good manufacturing practices and greater transparency? So what do you think that the companies will have to do to evolve in the changing government regulatory landscape? So, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? Yeah. So, the main thing is about, I congratulate Visbhuti sir and their team to have this discussion here, and this is the right forum here. And the main point, the first question is rightly asked about the quality issues, because right now, since India is #2, but then there are many quality issues that are also been talked about. My point is, yes, industry should come up, but along with industries, academia as well as, regulators and all, we should form a consortium. Right now, there are major companies, large companies, MSMEs, SMEs. So there are lower part, whereas MSME and SMEs are struggling to comply with the quality norms. There where the role comes of academia, the colleges like NIPER and D.Y. Patil University and all the pharmacy colleges, they should support MSMEs by providing some services of how to upgrade. There where, the students will also have one common background, that they will have a first-hand experience also, and industry will also benefit under the guidance of all the academicians. This is what I feel as an MSME manufacturer. I feel that all academia and industry should work together and ensure the quality should be there. More about that, regulators now, CDSCO is working very hard. Now, the image of CDSCO is of regulator, and because of the shortage of the staff there, we should give more power to regulators, as well as regulators should work as a facilitators. Because everyone talks of regulation, but MSMEs and SMEs, they have to facilitate, they need facilitation process, because they stuck somewhere. Everyone is not perfect, but industry, academia should support industry by facilitating them along with regulators. This is what I feel.
Hi. Am I audible? Hello? So even though we are saying that India is #1 and we are the pharmacy bowl of India, there are certain challenges, and regulatory especially is one of them. Why still India produced medicines sometimes get questioned on quality? the US and the European products are always perceived. The doctor in his mind knows that, those products are better in terms of efficacy, in terms of delivery. And products from India will always have, even though, we have large pharma companies and we do have a brand equity in place, still there are times when the doctor will ask you a question. Does it work? Is there a batch-wise variation? Is there, is it supported by a clinical trial? Is there any evidence to it? If these questions are still coming, which means we are still having a lot of gaps to address. And that's the reason why I believe all stakeholders, including the manufacturers, including the academia, including the associations, all of us need to collaborate towards creating this impression that we are giving you a good quality result. And a good quality will only come when regulations are in place. When these regulations are being followed by everyone, we need to take it seriously. And as Mr. Modi said, the small enterprises and the small players who are struggling, we are struggling because we do not know how it is to be done, what is to be done. So again, a collaborative effort is needed from all fronts. Students also need to read a lot, understand a lot how the industry is developing, what are the changes that are happening. The more aware we are, the more steps we can take towards correction. Thank you.
So my co-panelists have very well summarized what is needed from the regulatory perspective. I'll just go one step back and throw some numbers at you to understand the gap that is existing, because I heard some students being worried about jobs and all that. So I just want to highlight what is the gap and what we need to do. So we heard Mr. Girde mentioning that, and earlier also we heard that Indian industry is valued at 50 billion. And we are targeting to be more than 2 times very soon. But if you see in terms of healthcare, India comes in the last 50. There are different healthcare indexes across the world. One is like global burden of disease or access to healthcare. So if the total number of countries that are evaluated is 157, we are around 120, or if it is 195, we are crossing 150. We are at 165 or something. So which is a sorry state. But having said that, because there is a lot of focus coming back to healthcare, and there is a need for it also, as we take pride that, we are the 5th largest economy in terms of GDP. What next is important is the health and happiness of the people. And of course, we know that happiness is very intricately associated with health. So as the focus on healthcare increases, I think what we are expecting ourselves from 50 to 130 is an understatement. It should be much beyond that. And to further match the numbers, Indian whole industry is valued at 50 billion. But if you see Pfizer's turnover in 2023 is 58.3 billion, just one company. And that is around 41% less than last year. During COVID, its annual turnover was 100 plus billion. So there is a lot of gap, big gap that we need to consider, and not only in terms of quality, in terms of more production of drugs, so that we don't remain in the last quartile or of healthcare, and we should target the country as a whole, and not selective people should have the access to healthcare. That's something.
Yeah. So can you hear me? Hi. Yeah, so we are all pharmacy students out here, and I come from the research field. So I would just like to share some basic concepts on which I have been working all my life. We all deal with human life. We are making medicines which are given to ill patients who really need them to make them better. Considering that, it is very important that we always concentrate on seeing that our medicines are safe, first of all safe, They have to be safe, should not cause any harm. They are effective, and they are of consistent quality. See, the word important over here is consistently. Each and every batch of the product which you manufacture has to have the same quality. Quality not with respect to assay and RS only, what we test, but also quality of the implied things, that it is safe. That starts with, the excipients we use, how we use, the efficacy, and of course, the quality. Now, when you look at this, I'm sure all of you in your QA class must have learned that quality is designed into the product. It is built into the product. It cannot be tested into the product. Because whatever you do, you are testing a very small part of your batch. You are testing a small representative part. And unless you have the science and the data to back the quality of the full batch, you will not be able to deliver this.
So we have so many programs under this current government dispensation. We've got the industry being supported by the PMLI for production. There is a lot of initiative in terms of creating bulk drug parks. There is the Jan Aushadhi Yojana happening, and also the NIPERs are being supported quite a bit. The NPPA is overlooking this in terms of pricing. So in terms of the government initiatives, my question to the panel is the government doing enough? Because today, like what Dr. Deepa mentioned, is that still only 3.6% of the GDP is spent on healthcare, out of which most, or 60% of that is through your own pocket. Only 40% is being done by the government. So in terms of improving affordability, accessibility, supporting the industry, do you feel that the government is doing enough? And if it is doing enough, or whatever it is doing, is it having the desired impact in terms of reaching quality medicines to the masses?
So the best thing this government has done is Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Yojana. I have personally observed the procurement process of that, and I'm really, satisfied with the processes which they have, implemented. And in future, I feel that government should increase that Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi centers, because all the supply chain and all the procurement systems are in place in that. Whereas in the private, there are certain issues where, India is a big market. You can't expect regulators to control each and every pharmacy and everything. And there are many people who go for the shortcuts. But if we give the option of the government, guaranteed, Modi ki guarantee kind of thing, and make those store in each nook and corner of the Indian towns, it will help a lot to all the patients. Because Indian pharma market, I'm observing the shift from branded generics to generics. And in that generics, we don't have any control about the quality.
So would you take your prescription from a doctor to a generic pharmacy and say, iska sasta wala do?
So if I have an option of Jan Aushadhi, I will go to Jan Aushadhi, because I know the system processes followed by their procurement processes followed by them is really good. And the second most important point I want to say that government should come out of NPPA, because it is again restricting, pharma companies to give quality medicines. One hand, you have a generic policy, which is, giving the patient at very minimal margins and minimal cost.
Where earlier it used to take months and years to even get your license renewed, today everything is digital. There are SOPs in place. A lot of it is structured. And apart from that, these schemes rolling out the PLI, there is a medtech zone, not just for the pharmaceutical, but for the entire healthcare industry, they are taking a step forward. In terms of international, the government is focusing to increase the exports. They are wanting us as corporations, as companies, as small and large. They want us to become global. And that is where the vision of India becoming, number one is coming ahead. So yes, there are provisions from the government where they are helping us to scale up operations, ease of operations globally, and also, to increase our footprints.
Deepa, in your perspective, given your role in the pharmaceutical industry, do you feel that the government can do more? Is it doing enough? Both in terms of the domestic as well as in terms of exports?
Actually, my expertise is more on the clinical, so if it's okay, I can talk about that. Yeah, so in clinical trials, we have seen NDCTR 2019. It was, released in 2019, and it has streamlined the clinical trial approval process a lot. It has helped us, in getting approvals on time. Of course, you need to have all the data that is required for clinical trial approvals. As Clinical, we got the opportunity to work on 6 new chemical entities. It's like totally new drugs, not even not new formulations I'm talking about, in last 5 years. And we got, some of these were developed in India by through Indian R&D, and we got good guidance and support from DC, Sadisco office in that.
Aruk, would you like to comment?
So I would like to talk in 2 areas. Since I work in formulation research, I can definitely see that BIRAC is now 10 years old. BIRAC is a biotechnology industrial research assistance council, which gives funding, which is like risk funding, grant funding for research projects which are very risky. And apart from that, we don't have any risk funding in India. That's a big problem. So you have to depend on BIRAC, and BIRAC is fantastic. The process is pretty good, although you get a grant, but the speed of disbursement takes time. So you're losing very valuable time in a research project. Already anything you do with 505(b)(2) is a like 6 to 10 year project. And in that, if you lose 1 year waiting for grants, then that's really bad. So I think that can be speeded up. But having said that, 10 years before that was not there. And another issue, I think as a country, what we have is that we have medical insurance, which is only for hospitalization. Like in other countries, we do not have medical insurance for our day-to-day medication, especially if we have a chronic disease like hypertension or diabetes. And I think that is one of the reasons why there's so much focus on cost control, to the point that people start taking shortcuts because they have to survive as a business. So I think if the government can do something in this sphere and start some sort of, at least, your medication which you have for chronic diseases, some sort of insurance payout or something for that, I think that would really help everybody.
Do you agree with Sandeep Bhai that NPPA should be abolished?
Not for essential medicines. I think we still have a big problem of accessibility, very big problem. Just 19 kilometers across the harbor is Alibag, where I go on the weekends. I have a house there, and I can see that over there people have no options available. If something is wrong with my caretaker, I have to talk to my doctor in Mumbai to get him immediate relief. So that is the position of the accessibility. Even medicines are not available there. So I think that this is all because of this pressure that the industry is having, with the NPDP, and therefore they are not concentrating on essential drugs. So I think some via media has to be worked out, or the government has to put up companies which will concentrate on essential drugs and support them in some way. But if we have insurance, I think it takes care of a lot of these issues.
My point is, one, NPPA should be abolished once we have an Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi centers all over India. They are as equivalent, that is below NPPA prices. So that was my point. And as far as international market is concerned, I also represent Pharma Merchant Exporters Association. Myself, I am into international market only. We have our presence in more than 15 countries. What I feel, India is a pharmacy to world. And do you know, India is a pharmacy to world, but problem is that many regulators world over don't accept Indian pharmacopoeia. Now, government is trying on its best, but Indian pharmacopoeia as well as industry also should work together to promote Indian pharmacopoeia. What happens in small country where the population is 5,000, 10,000, they work on Indian credit line. But the regulator, when see IP, ये IP नहीं चलेगा, we will not take IP, you bring us BP USP. So more focus on promoting IP world over, and this point was taken up with Honorable Mansukh Mandavia sir, and he said that with the help of the vaccines which we delivered, you will see soon Indian pharmacopoeia will be accepted worldwide.
Right, so
Can I
maybe we
add
can
something
just-
here? Yeah. So I think your point is very valid. If Jan Aushadhis are available in all corners of the world, then of course NPPA should go. There's no reason for it. The market or the competition will regulate prices, right? So that's really a very valid point. And I also feel that what you said about, your last point, that we have to ensure that whatever our Indian pharmacopoeia is also accepted, and there is some move currently with the USP accepting and things like that. And I think if we become part of the PICS also, it will go a great deal in helping around the world people accepting Indian medicines. So that is also one thing I think which is there in the works, but it has not happened for the last 5 years. So that's important.
So maybe we can now shift gears from the regulatory and government landscape to the industry dynamics. So one of the focus which has been talked about a lot is moving from make in India to develop in India. Trying to do, there is very little that we have seen of products originating from India in terms of NCEs or NBEs in the international market. So the question is that what do you feel are the requirements to reorient ourselves from develop in India to make in India? Maruk, you want to start first? From make in India to develop in India. Means more emphasis on R&D and trying to bring about more innovation, especially interacting with academia and things like that.
I'll go with that.
Please.
Okay, so I think we have to understand one thing, that there are problems which are specific to our Indian population, which none of the multinationals are going to bother about. Leishmaniasis, malaria, they are not going to bother about it. We have to do it ourselves, and we have the capability of doing it. So definitely we have to do it, and we can do it, and there are ways and means to do it. So that is one aspect, because that is what we have to do for our population. But another part is also, we really need to develop assets. By assets, I mean R&D assets or IP assets, which are then can be, used to solve problems, health problems around the world. And that's how you can, go from make in India to develop in India. And we are definitely seeing that trend, it's happening. My company, Amaterasu Life Sciences, which is my second company, we are into 505(b)(2)s or new products which are developed using known molecules or new technologies. And we have secured IP for all our 3 technologies, and we are also trying to now take it across in India and to the world. So it's not easy to do, but it's not difficult also, it's doable. And another important point I want to talk about here is we are a virtual company, we work very closely with the academia. So we have a collaboration with UDCT ICT, which is my alma mater, and we are doing a lot of work over there, and then we take it across with other partners. So definitely this industry-academia collaboration model has to mature a bit now. And it's high time that the research work which is done in the academics, which is most of the time funded by government funding, which is our taxpayers' money, should be commercially viable research, should be such that it can be translated into the space. If that is done, it will benefit the academia, it will benefit the students, it will benefit the industry with whom they are working, but it has to be of that level. And I think the more the academia can do to build that sort of quality and regulatory perspective into the research done for the master's or PhD students, the more it will help all of us and our country.
That's interesting, because you said not just develop in India for India, but develop in India even for the world.
I would just like to add here that Make in India, the skill set that we need for making something and developing something is totally different. And India is the, as you all know, we are having the most brightest of the minds, the most educated population right here sitting in front of us. And someone here was asking what kind of skills do we need to develop. So this is one of this. And when we think of a pharma, we automatically think only of drug, but there are so many different things beyond the drug as well. So development can happen in not just like, of course, R&D is one of the major things where you need to come up with innovative products, with new molecules, new chemical entities. However, there is packaging, there is services, there is digital, there is drug delivery systems. There are so many more things that we can offer the world. And right now, yes, we are having a great plethora of drugs, but we are somewhere behind in so many, all these other parameters. And that's a huge scope that we can think of, being into the development category. So that's just my point to add.
Coming to the develop in India, the fact is that the only one drug so far developed in India has been approved by FDA, which is very different from China. In fact, from China, many traditional medicines have also got approval, whereas 50% of the new drugs are developed from plants, but unfortunately none of the Ayurvedic drugs have got approvals from the FDA. There's a lot of good things that are being done. We have got seed funding from the government, which is I think around 20 lakhs. Then another is 50 lakhs funding. These two are without any equity, asking for any equity. Then BARAC is there. It was concepted way back, and since 10 years it's quite functional. But the problem is that process is bit long. But still we are not seeing the results, so there is a lot needs to be done. One of the biggest challenges is that whereas we are so much, we have so much expertise in developing the generics, we have an history, we have experts who help us. Whereas unfortunately in this area, we don't have that much of expertise, so we will need to collaborate more with, at an international level. That is one. And second is academia. It's a big resource which has been completely underutilized. If you see in across the globe, I have published an article also on it. I can share the link later. Across the globe, 80% of the drugs are developed either by small companies, MSMEs, or they call it startups and biotechs there, or academia. So the initial concept is developed in academia, then once they develop it to a certain extent, they spin it off, and then it is further developed, through funding. There are accelerators that support that. They have got very good facilities at accelerators. They get all the equipments which are properly managed, and maintained and made available. So these are few things examples we can take. Again, there is a lot to do, and the more we do, it means, growing industry together and getting a lot of good jobs, good places for all the students. As pharmacy students, you are in one of the best fields. Like when I chose, I'm a physician by education. So when I chose medicine, I thought I can do a lot of things. I can practice, I can join industry, I can join academia. Similarly, pharmacy is another area. You are one of those healthcare professionals who have ample opportunities in the space. So please, make the best use.
So in the interest of time, I'll move to the third topic, which is the emergence of different go-to-market models. During the COVID, and especially even after that, we saw a lot of change in the patient dynamics of the interaction between e-pharmacies, telemedicine, consultations happening online, a lot of access to information thanks to Google and WhatsApp. A lot of people are more educated. So my question to the panel is, do you see in the future Indian pharmaceutical companies going more and more direct to consumer, trying to reach out to patients? And there are a lot of examples already in place with many Indian companies which have created artificial intelligence-based models on the net, wherein people can interact. It's going towards disease management and interacting more with the entire ecospace being one doctor, pharmacist, patient, pharma company, regulator, everybody coming together in one ecospace in the virtual world, and that developing more and more rather than the typical how we have products manufactured, then we have a medical representative going and detailing to the doctor, and then you have the chemist. So do you see that, or what do you see in terms of evolution going forward thanks to so much of change in terms of the internet?
What I foresee is the companies will ultimately evolve and kind of make or adopt an omni-channel communication, because it has to be. Today, times have changed. The patients are aware, the doctors are aware. The patients will go and ask doctors 20,000 questions. They are already read everything about their disease, their condition, about the drug that they are taking, about the manufacturer that the product is getting manufactured on Google. So as the communication channels are getting, the lines are blurring. A lot of times even the companies are unable to take a decision whether the product has to be really positioned directly to the consumer, or it has to be positioned only direct to the doctors, and somewhere on the social media everything is there. So a comprehensive communication channel as well as the go-to-market strategy will have to be defined from top to bottom in a very structured way. That is how the companies should ideally move ahead, because that's the way ahead. We cannot go back and say that this is how I'm going to do it, and because somewhere it will spill over.
Do you see medical representatives vanishing from the industry?
Not totally vanishing away, because there will be the concept selling, the scientific. There are certain products which are completely, not non-consumer. So, of course, the RX as well as the OTC, the segment for certain products is very well defined, like oncology products, like cardiology, diabetology. But howsoever, there are certain products where the lines are getting blurred, and even in diabetic segment that is happening. So when I'm seeing there are in a family of 4 people, if there are 2 diabetic patients, they will interchange their medicines without asking their doctors. Both are on sugar medicines and they might be on different molecules, but they will very easily go and take it. That's only because there is lack of awareness. So I'm not totally seeing the role of a medical representative going away. It is going to stay.
I have an example of a nephew of mine in the US. He's a diabetic, type 1 diabetic. He's got an insulin pump here. There is a sensor. The doctor sitting anywhere in the world can monitor his glucose levels, can from there also increase or decrease. Of course, it is automatically happening, but he can even change his insulin release into the body. He can give him a message saying that, what did you eat today? Did you not go for an exercise today? So the interface between the patient and the doctor is almost direct.
Yes, so what I meant is there is a place for the direct communication and there is a place for the rep as well. So in the same cycle, the company has to define that my rep goes and talks this to the doctor, and then the plus also having a channel of communication direct. So what goes to the consumer? It has to be a wholesome. So for all stakeholders has to be planned.
Maru.
I think, of course, we have to always have an omni-channel approach today, because you have consumers who are online and reading and wanting to know everything. At the same time, when you have a new concept to sell or explain, it has to go through a qualified person who will go and talk to the doctors, because without that, you can't have new categories or new concepts created. So there is need for both, but I feel that AI is changing things dramatically. So we experimented a lot with online marketing in a very niche segment, and we found it was really bleeding us. That was 3 years ago. But today, I think with AI, things will change. So definitely, there is a place for consumer connect, and also consumers are becoming very aware. So all of us have our consumer WhatsApp. And daily we are answering questions on WhatsApp, and consumers actually send us so we have a product for bed sore prevention, and consumers will send us a photograph and say, is this a bed sore? Or they will say, can I use this product or that product? So they are so aware, they have read from the website, they have read from the whatever is there on Amazon, everything, and then they connect with us and they ask questions. So this is very good because this was not the case before technology. So like this, there are so many advantages. It's just that how we use each channel effectively for our business is what we have to understand and arrive at.
I think I just need to say, actually it's a question to the audience. We have been talking a lot about the availability of information. There's a difference between information and misinformation. And my question is for the students, if you want to know about a drug, of course you will use the internet through Google. What is the source that you would prefer the most to see? All of you are pharmacy students. You are supposed to be the experts of the drugs. Sorry? Maybe someone can give them the mic.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I majorly use drug bank to check the information of whether it is in clinical trials or it has passed metabolism test or any blood-brain barrier. I use drug bank for the drug information.
You use the drug bank?
Yes.
Any other source anyone uses? And my next question also, maybe if anyone in your family is taking the drug, have you gone to the drug bank and seen, and what all you checked there?
Yes, ma'am. I definitely go through the drug bag information when it is approved and which companies are manufacturing these drugs and for which formulation is there and what are the different formulation and why we are taking IV or why we are taking orally that drug. All these information I have definitely checked.
My question is very simple. There is a drug that is prescribed anytime in your family or maybe to you. So did you go before that person took? What did you try to read about the drug and from which source?
Drug bank only, ma'am.
And what did you read? You told anything else did you want to see there?
Many information is there in drug bank.
I don't use drug bank, so I don't know what all is there. But what we refer to is package insert and summary of product characteristics. Unfortunately, we do not have something like this from Government of India, which we should have. But in the lack of that, because we don't have any new drugs as such in India, we use FDA or European sources for that. For FDA, you can go to access data. You can ask me later the details of the sites. And for Europe, there is a SMPC, summary of product characteristics. And at least you should see if you have been given the correct dose. What are the side effects? What are the food interactions? What effect it has on your driving abilities? Because for some drugs you are not advised to drive. There are contraindications. The drugs can be contraindicated in certain indications. If there are certain diseases, you should see the warnings that are there and drug-drug interactions. These are some of the minimum things, and you can start from yourself, from your home. Start learning about the drugs. That's what you are required to do as a pharmacist. In my company, I have maximum number of pharmacists. We have 5 physicians, PhDs, and pharmacists. And 80% of the time, all of us are reading. So that is the basic thing that we have to do.
So go-to-market strategy, I'm talking about something in future, how companies can go into it. Today only we had one presentation from Thailand professor about the 3D printing. And I see 3D printing as the future pharmacy. Have you know about drug dispensaries which were there earlier? Have you seen some drug dispensaries? So what I see, the future is the 3D printed drug dispensaries, because the science is evolving fast. In cancer treatment, what we have seen is that personalized prescription has been generated based on the testing which they do, DNA testing and gene therapy testing, based on that personalized prescription is there and drug dosage is there. So in future, what I see that 3D printer and 3D printed drug delivery dispensaries will be the market,